All right, welcome to Altitude Sports Radio 92.5's training camp recap. And it is an interesting day for sure for the Denver Broncos as they get ready to play the Indianapolis Colts. A walkthrough inside today as they were trying to get ready for everything on Indy time. So they're inside, which is good considering the weather. And it was a walkthrough. And everything that we suspected would be happening is happening. We welcome your comments and get to your questions and concerns. We'll do that in just a little bit. So load them up in the comment section. We'd appreciate it. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you being here. Popcorn ready. DMac 3, 2, 1, go. That's it, baby. That's it. So we'll be here as long as we have your interest in terms of talking about the Broncos and what's going on. In terms of Sean Payton making the announcement we all thought we would hear, here we go. Are you ready for this?
I mentioned to you earlier in the week, we'll play 3 phases. It's pretty common. We'll pay attention to really more of the plays than quarters. The first phase would be somewhere between 15 and 20, ideally. Stidham will start in phase 1, Nix will be in phase 2, and then Zach will be in phase 3. Nix might get the final series in phase 1. We just got to see where we're at rep-wise. I don't want to go through every player relative to the phases they're playing here. We'll be here all night. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, well, okay, Coach. So what should we expect in terms of the rotation?
I just think right now, certainly, he's been here, his experience. Next week it'll be Nix. And so, but we're focused on this game, and I would say, just with where we're at.
Yeah, so that was interesting that Sean Payton just threw out that it was going to be Nix, unquestioned. So it was important for him to establish that Nix may take some reps with the ones on Sunday and that Nix would get the nod next week. Okay. So we went a whole week with the depth chart and sort of a promise of announcement, and that's put off. And then they come back, and they obviously want to give a nod to Stidham. They want to be true to the depth chart to a degree, and they want to reward it's kind of an old school sort of thinking, like, hey, here we go. And perhaps they just don't feel Nix is quite ready to start, I guess, a preseason game. But that being said, it's not like Sean Payton doesn't want to win. He values winning.
Speaking of important, how important is it for you to and your team to win these games, these preseason games, or how much importance do you put on that?
I got to win, underline twice, explanation point. I just think, it's something that we're training to do each week. And now we're going to have our subs, and obviously the most important thing is the 53 cut, and trying to get that right. And so, but also the mindset of winning anything we do.
Okay. Well, all right. Sure. I mean, that's a okay mentality. I mean, I guess. Okay. Yeah, the whole we've got to win the last game of the season. Not really. Winning the last game of the season doesn't really help you. Coach Mike Sanford joining me today.
DMac, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We're just getting to we got to win. We got to win in the preseason sort of deal. Now, maybe I have a more cynical reporter side to that compared to a coach sort of side to it. But you like that. You like the we got to win the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, this is a franchise right now that, frankly, you got to count any win as a win, right? And you got to build towards building a winning culture, especially with young players. I mean, this is the reality of the season that you're in right now. Is it's a rebuild. I mean, you're rebuilding with the face of the franchise at the quarterback position. You're rebuilding with some skill players that are in their first 2 years. I think Marvin Mims is certainly one of those. Devon Bailey, I think, will end up being one of those. Audric Estime will. And so you have to set the culture for how you're going to go about finding ways to get W's. And to be honest, the preseason is a great way to do that.
Yeah, so you saw what was what. I think it's a little rah-rah and BS, and, literally nobody remembers or cares. I mean, we had a preseason game just, lightninged out, rained out. I mean, win, loss, but it's okay. It's all right. I mean, I get it. What I wouldn't want to see is anybody doing something extraordinary to win a game or something stupid in a preseason game, and I don't think we're going to see any of that. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. Talk to me about what you saw today, even in the walkthrough, and what Sean Payton did announce in terms of Stidham. But hey, Stidham, yes, but next week.
For me, what I saw that was most encouraging for Broncos fans, for myself, is the end of practice on Thursday was the 2-minute drill. There were two particular plays where it appeared that, members of the offensive firepower, if you will, had some injuries, took some knocks, and I was worried. I was like, oh gosh. And it was Lucas Kroll, and he was down for, I don't know, a couple minutes, getting attended to by the trainers. I'm guessing, hopefully it was he was up and practicing today, so it's probably cramp. It was probably more of something along those lines. And then Lil Jordan Humphrey also on a downfield throw that Bo Nix threw, that, I thought it was actually a pretty good downfield throw, just hung it up a little bit, enough to allow a DB to come back and make a play on it. And Lil Jordan was down a minute and a half with an injury. So both guys were up and running today.
That's good.
Both guys are going to be playing. Outside of Brandon Jones, I think, I'm trying to think who else might be down. I think this is a fairly healthy Broncos team.
Levi Wallace going to play?
Yeah. Levi Wallace was not. I don't think I didn't have a chance to see much because they were split field for their walkthrough. So like in the indoor, the offense was on the media side. The defense was pretty much far side. So it was hard to see through the offense and the rotations that were happening. So I think that you're going to see most likely I think you're going to see a good, healthy dose of Riley Moss, Damari Mathis, a player that I totally forgot about from the draft, and we haven't even talked about is Chris Abrams-Drain.
Yeah, cornerback.
The Mizzou corner.
Yeah.
He's had a fairly quiet camp, which is not always a bad thing when you're a corner, right? It means he's not just getting toasted. So I think he'll end up getting a good amount of playing time, on Sunday as well.
What other competitive positions are you looking forward to watching? What should we be watching for on Sunday?
I think the outside of quarterback and receiver, I think those are the two that I've certainly spoken a lot about. I think it's inside linebacker opposite Alex Singleton. So, just to see if there's somebody who comes out from underneath I guess there's two guys that are rotating that I like. Jonas Griffith, Indiana State guy, and he's 6'4", 250 pounds, runs very well, very smart apparently. He's competing right now with Cody Barton, but maybe there's somebody else that hasn't necessarily had the chance to emerge, at least publicly. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into the film study of practice than what we see at practice as media members, even myself. I mean, it's hard to see all 22 and see every play. And then safety. I'm really, really interested to see how JL Skinner tackles, to see Devin Key out there. So I think that's a really good ongoing battle because Brandon Jones right now has just shown, that he's limited, in terms of his availability so far in training camp. And you kind of have to trust what you see in training camp because it's not like you just snap your fingers and play a 17-game season and everything's totally fine. You're healthy. So I think if Devin Key or JL Skinner show that they are game ready, NFL game ready, then I don't know that the Broncos have to kick the tires as much, with the safety market leading up to the opening game.
All right. So how would you sum up this week then, Mike? Well, what do you think?
Well, I thought it was a week that the rookie quarterback hit a wall. I think he hit his rookie wall. Okay. I think Salty Bo on Tuesday led to a couple. No, Salty Bo's Wednesday, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Apparently not a great practice Tuesday. Probably the worst practice for the whole offense of all of training camp on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then Thursday was an interesting practice because it was almost like Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson were almost like, hey man, He's wounded. He's staggering right now. His knees are a little bit weak. This is my opportunity. And hell, I'll tell you, man, those two guys took advantage of that dang opportunity and threw a ton of. I mean, it was the most touchdown there were the most touchdowns thrown, the most wild plays by far in training camp on Thursday, and it came from Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson.
Yeah, listen, I'm just guessing here, but I think a boot got put up the butt on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I think it was reasonable that Sean Payton basically said, let it rip, like stop holding back, because he insinuated that earlier in the week about Saturday's practice, that he was encouraging his coordinators to let's get the ball down the field a little bit. And at least in the portions that I was watching on Thursday, when Zach Wilson at least had a chance to, lay it up or take a shot, he was taking shots left and right when the situation presented itself.
The irony of this preseason, because there is a real quarterback competition, if you will, between Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix, is the fact that Zach Wilson's going to get a ton of playing time.
He is.
I mean, you watch these games and shoot, even like, their backup quarterbacks are only getting a couple series, like Justin Fields tonight, who, I mean, looked as vintage of a Justin Fields as you can possibly find. He was 5 of 6, had a couple beautiful throws, had a couple decent runs, had some sacks that he shouldn't have taken, and fumbled 2 quarterback center exchanges. Like, hey, Justin Fields, you're back, man.
He's back, baby.
Good to see you, bud. I missed you. But he didn't play into really much of the second quarter. And frankly, he's competing for a quarterback job, if you will. But it's Russell Wilson, even though, did you find it hilarious that Russell Wilson, who was basically not participating in the preseason game, went full gear and led the team out of the tunnel, giving the pump-up speeches? I mean, what are we freaking doing, man?
What are we doing, man? What are we doing? How do guys really buy that? Seriously, man. How do they buy it?
Well, the one thing about Russ, especially like in Pittsburgh, that place has been starved for any form of quarterback. I don't know, proven quarterback commodity. Is that Russ won a Super Bowl and won an MVP. So he does have a form. He has a semblance of credibility with the locker room, even if he sounds like the biggest cornball on planet Earth. So I don't know. I think that Russ fits what Pittsburgh's going to ultimately do. And I think Pittsburgh's going to run a system that's very similar to the 5-game win streak that Russell Wilson led last season. Run the football, play great defense, and then timely shots down the field and play the second play.
Let me play a little video. Now, this is shot from the hill by just a fan, but I think everybody's be okay by seeing this. This is that great catch Bailey made right in front of you. Did this happen right in front of you? Watch 81. Whoa!
Oh,
you want to break that one down?
Well, yeah, I was just off camera to the left of the screen,
maybe 10, 15 feet from that, right?
I was right there. And, like I told you a couple times, like as a football guy, there is a sheer drudgery of training camp, no matter what. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times the drudgery is broken up by fantastic plays. And until that moment, like I was depressed because there hadn't been any plays made, like very few, like wow plays. Like I'll tell you what, this training camp is, if you love a 6-yard spot route, this has been the best training camp on earth, man. It is smoking with 6 yards spot routes. But I'm like, man, at some point you got to push the ball down the field. I was talking to Dave Logan today. It was a great conversation over at practice. Yeah, and Dave and I were talking about how, he's a play caller. He's been play caller for 30 some odd years.
Yeah,
how difficult it is as a play caller to consistently drive the football down the field with 8 to 12 play drives. You need somebody to take a flat route that you threw 2 yards past the line of scrimmage and turn it into something wow. You need a receiver to go high point of football and take it off somebody's freaking helmet. Like you need that to happen. And, Dave and I were both talking like, who are those guys? And shoot, the name that popped up is Devon Bailey. Like
Yeah.
he's not only done it in one-on-ones, DBs versus receivers, damn near every practice where they've done one-on-ones, but now that same training that happened in one-on-ones carried over into an 11-on-11 competitive red zone drill. So I'm really encouraged by Devon Bailey. And I did on the call-in that I did today with PhD, it was interesting. Not just the Jarrett Stidham ones, Bo Nix 2s, Zach Wilson 3s that they were walking through. I was right. Tyler didn't know, he didn't believe me per se, but it ended up being the case for sure.
Yeah.
I was most interested with the fact that the starting 3 receivers in 11 personnel, so just one tight end, one running back, obviously 3 receivers. It was outside Josh Reynolds, outside Cortland Sutton, and the slot was Tim Patrick.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me. I mean, I haven't really seen him being utilized that much, but clearly he's a smart football player. He's a veteran. He's been in a lot of different environments and situations and even offensive schemes in his time as a Bronco. But is that a message to Marvin Mims?
I think it's a big one, and I think we've seen some frustration by Mims out there. I've heard some interesting things sort of behind the scenes, and I think they love Tim Patrick. So the only way that you really Vele, you'd be insane to cut him. I mean, right now. I mean why would you do it? This is a guy who can make some immediate contributions, okay, especially in the red zone. So in order to do this, you'd have to keep 6 guys, and that may push Mims into a role as a specialist, which he was great at, although you can make some pretty strong arguments these days that the kickoff, because they're always going to have 2 guys back there. You could make the argument it suits a running back. And listen, I understand they're going to mix things up in how they block things. But the most basic way to block things that they've figured out, zone running game, zone blocking.
Block the guy in front of you and get his outside target, block his outside pad.
That's it. And just allow for the running back to pick his cutback lane.
You're executing outside zone just like Terrell Davis did. I mean, it really is the same thing.
We have seen it 10 million times here. There's, it's actually incredibly simple, but deadly effective if you have the right people that can run it. And it is incredibly simple to concentrate on special teams, Mike. I mean, I just got to get the guy, get in front of him, and that's all I got to think about. Well, dude, what's more simple than that?
Yeah, and as long as you keep him covered up, the running back will make you right. Like, that's the bottom line. Like, if that guy over pursues, say you're trying to reach his outside target, outside pad, and that guy, you can't get him reached, and that running back's going to, just like the outside zone play, he's going to stretch it, see that guy flash outside, boom, and then put his foot in the ground and get vertical. So
Mims may, we'll see where it goes, but his value is still significant on punts, okay? But I will not be surprised. If Mims does not solidify that slot receiver spot. Will not be surprised by it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I believe when I heard Sean Payton and he was talking about the receiver position. You remember that whole conversation where he talked about like the criteria is that they got to be tough players, smart players, and productive players. I think that's the 3 criteria laid out.
Yeah.
But then he also mentioned like he named receivers based off of like he's like Mims is an inside out player.
Yes.
And I think he said Tim Patrick and Vele are both inside out players, meaning that their value starts with them as a slot, and then they can also play outside. And I found that very interesting that, even though Tim Patrick has played more of the outside receiver position with more frequency, it looks like he's going to be rolling in 11 personnel with the ones when the Broncos take their first snaps in preseason.
The takeaway I have so far in camp is that the Broncos are going to want to punish teams and be a very physical team. Also, they're in love with the bigger receivers. Peyton has talked about it multiple times. And it makes it fairly easy for Nix to execute a relatively simple, I won't say dumbed down, but easy to comprehend system when you can use the middle of the field, where that was lost with Russ. He was too short, couldn't see it. couldn't see it and wasn't really patient enough for it. Well, you don't want to be running into dumb sacks, but you do want to be using the totality of the field. And the amount of like deep shots, I don't know, man. Who knows? It's going to be relatively limited. But I've seen Bo Nix throw that out plenty of times in his training camp. He can make that throw, and he knows when to throw it and where to throw it. The guy is the son of a coach, and he has played so many games, Mike. I get it. They're not NFL games. But, like when Brock Osweiler came to the NFL, he had started like something like 13 games or something like that because like there was a redshirt year and then he came out as a junior. And I don't know, man, who knows what was going on, but he had barely played. So he had good for Brock because Brock's a good dude, but he had barely played in the college. Then he really didn't play in the NFL. And, by the time it got to him being a star down there in Houston, he was lost. I mean, you just sit on the bench all that time. Well, you know better than anybody. You got to play, right? And isn't playing better than not? So theoretically, wouldn't Bo be basically good to go?
Yeah, so that out throw, what I've noticed with this training camp is situations where the corners on outside receivers, if you give free access. So what free access essentially means is that, there is the corners starting off at least 6 yards off the wide receiver, playing a zone coverage. And there is no true flat defender, no overhang player that could be a linebacker that's in a precarious pre-snap position or just buzzes out at the snap. If you give Bo Nix free access, he's going to eat. I mean, Bo Nix will eat against free access. Now, the question that I still have after training camp is if you play that tighter coverage and you play squat coverage, can he fit that ball in with the accuracy and the amount of RPMs and velocity that's needed on those throws? That's to be seen. That's an area that I think we'll see maybe a little bit in preseason, whether he answers that question or not, but we'll definitely see it in the regular season. DMac, we'll see it. There was actually, were you there for the red zone on yesterday, the red zone 7-on-7?
Yes, I was. That's when Wilson was like, well, it could have been 4 for 4 if Lucas Kroll could have caught a back shoulder or high ball. But yes, I was there for that. Yes.
Did you see, so right before the Zach Wilson 3 for 4 touchdowns, did you see the flat route that Bo Nix threw? And I believe it was a corner, Reese Taylor, like damn near intercepted it. He left it slightly inside. The ball was like hanging. Okay. That was a play for me where I'm like,
careful.
Know, yeah, it's like almost like buyer beware on that particular throw. And to be honest, those are like things that I know Bo Nix is a really intelligent player. Yeah. So he almost probably like in his catalog of reps that he's banked, he's almost taking that learning experience and realizing, okay, if I throw that against this coverage, I got to rip it and I got to rip it early and I got to put it outside and low. That was a particular play that I saw. I was like, that's that could be going the other way. And the worst thing you do in the red zone when you're on the 7-yard line is throw a ball like that goes 96 the other way. Would be about 96 the other way.
I'm gonna point something out right here. You see, you can sort of see it. See, it's up there. This is me and Andy's band. You can sort of see it. Fatty's Big Chance. Andy and I were in a band together. I don't know if you even knew that or not, but Andy Lindahl and I were in a band together. Fatty's Big Chance. So we played live.
In a band together?
Yeah. We played.
Were you guys both regulars, or were you?
It's our band.
No. Were you the Sanford of the band?
No, it's our band. It was me, Andy, John, and we were the Spinal Tap of bass players. We seriously for like 3 years we really couldn't find a regular bass player. We had some keyboardists and we had a female vocalist a couple times. We were asking Andy about it, man. We had fun. I'd love to get it back together. But what I was going to say is we would rehearse, and we had it down. But every time we played a live gig, I'm telling you, every single time, all of a sudden the song just got like a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
A little bit faster. And despite however we would rehearse it, you could never simulate playing in front of a live audience. And because we were still a very young band, even though we practiced a lot, we couldn't help ourselves from just a little bit quick. And I was the drummer, and that was basically my fault. But when we
I was going to say, who the hell was your drummer? Well,
me,
I got the answer there.
it's a spaz. It was
No,
like
you
if
just got
it's
fired up, man. You know, you got lost in the sauce.
yeah. And my point with that is, first of all, I'm in a band. Second of all, it's to say things are inevitably going to happen fast for Bo Nix, but not just for Bo, for everybody. And if I could predict anything, throws will just be a little bit off because everything is going to be happening faster. Everything. And I do believe there's a difference from preseason games to regular season games to higher pressure situation games. I do. And it comes down to the Super Bowl. My guy, Alfred Williams, told me the one piece of advice he was given about a Super Bowl, you won't believe how fast it goes. So even with the veteran NFL guys, the speed of everything has these crazy levels. So I'll be fascinated how Bo handles that.
You think about a Super Bowl. It's funny that you bring that up with Alfredo Williams, as I know him, because of
that's right, Pasta Jays, baby, Pasta Jays.
But think about it, it's like for a veteran, even like a 10, 11-year veteran in the National Football League, the Super Bowl, if that's the first time you've played in it, that's probably the equivalent of a rookie playing in a regular season NFL game, right? Where it's just everything is just magnified. And I've been there. Shoot, I'll never forget the first time I coached in a Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
Like, I've been at Boise State playing in front of 20, sometimes 14,000 fans.
Sure.
We open and I'm the coordinator. We open against the University of Texas. Like, that's our opening game. And I'm like, dude, this is different, man. Like, this is fast. And we beat their ass and all that stuff. And Malik Zaire set every Notre Dame stadium passing record that day. But yeah, like it felt different. Like, it felt fast. It felt like, whoa.
Were you calling plays from the booth or the field?
Booth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that helps.
It helps a lot, especially if what's funny, DMac, is if the booth is an enclosed environment. There's some booths where you have the windows open and it's like you're like in the environment. If it's like almost like a radio studio environment, you feel like you are zen in that little box, right?
Yeah.
But if those windows are up and you hear the crowd noise, you see all the pomp and circumstance, you can get lost in the sauce pretty easily if you don't have tremendous focus.
I totally agree. And they used to, they don't anymore, but they used to allow the media onto the field within 2 minutes to go. And it was like, I was always blown away from when you're up in the press box, things look slow. Things look kind of easy. Things are just sort of, all right, I got it, everything here. You get down on that field, man, and it's the music and the crowd. And frankly, sometimes just the sight lines. There's a lot of tall, big guys out there, man.
Yeah.
And it's a flat sight line too. Like it's hard to see like, well, what are they doing over there and what's happening? I was always amazed that coaches would prefer to be on the sideline rather than, up. And Sean Payton is the one that's calling plays. How about the fact that Sean Payton said, I need glasses because I called the wrong play by accident last time?
That was actually probably my favorite moment of last season. Like, just full candor, not trying to be like, Johnny Ball coach that has all the answers. I loved that moment because that
was a great moment, but nothing matches the Monday press conference after the Packers win when he details that he was gripping a steering wheel in the Cherry Creek Mall parking lot going to a sushi dinner, but he hates sushi. And he's wondering why he can't be happy. He actually said that. Why can't I be happy?
I was on the air that Monday. It was one of my first weeks with Dempsey. So yeah, it's wild. To your point, when I called plays up in the booth, and especially the 2014 year at Boise State, we won the Fiesta Bowl that year, and the offense was humming. We had Jay Ajayi as our running back, who was a tremendous player. When we got up by about 30 and you get to middle of the fourth quarter, the head coach be like, hey, you guys can come down. When I went down, so you'd come down and that was actually Brian Harsin, who ironically called plays for Bo Nix for a year at Auburn.
Okay.
He was the head coach at Boise State. But when I went down on that field, and Brian Harsin loved it because he got to call plays. He got to get back to his element for a while. I couldn't believe how different the game looked when I came down on the field. It was like I went from I went from two different worlds. It's almost like watching these Olympic 400 meters, the relays, 4x1 or a 400-meter race. They start out with that real wide view, and you're like, damn, these people are running slowly. And then when they have that angle down that back stretch, when you see them digging and they have that up close and personal look, you're like, whoa, they are running. And I think that's the difference, and I think it's going to be the case for Bo Nix. I really do. I think I do too. Maybe not in the preseason, but I think when it's real at Seattle, if he's the starter, like there's going to be a moment where he's like, ooh, that's fast. And
it's fast. Yeah.
And I watched Jordan Love go through that. I mean, he'd been holding the clipboard for 3 years, behind Aaron Rodgers. And this past season, like it took 7, 8, 9 weeks before he like really came into his own and looked like himself, and his natural instincts and abilities started to really shine.
Well, I can't wait for next week. And let's save it for next week. But you have a long, if people don't know, deep history with Jordan Love, who just signed a monster deal. So I'm looking forward. Let's get into those stories next week. They're really super cool. And I know you've got to be pumped about next week, first of all, So, and I understand, well, you will significantly have divided loyalties for preseason. So, it's not that big of a deal. And hey, man, it's cool. I could sit here and want Jordan Love to succeed. I got no beefs with that. I think he was put in a really tough situation, really tough. And boy, he came out smelling like a rose on the other side. So good for him.
You know what he came out smelling like?
Came
out smelling like money, baby.
That's right. That's right.
The biggest contract, tied for the biggest contract in NFL history, man. How wild is that?
It's well, for now, because that's just where
it's going to change. Yeah, for sure.
I know, but it's crazy. It's like in the NFL, do you got a guy like that, or do you got a guy you think is going to be like that?
Well, how about tonight's preseason games? Okay, I'm gonna point out a couple.
Go for it.
CJ Stroud to Tank Dell just to start the preseason off. They got the guy. Like they have the freaking guy.
No doubt about him.
Now, Carolina, they're going to play New England, and it's the remnants of that hurricane that was kind of coming up the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want Bryce Young to have to play in that game. They're like, no way. We got to get this guy confident. So they don't got the guy, because if he was the guy, then they'd just put him out there and get him his 1 or 2 series, go score a touchdown, just like CJ Stroud did. Not the case, and I think that's so interesting. I think we're going to know, man, I'd say we'd know by the month of November. We're going to know if Bo Nix is that guy.
Okay. All right. I look forward to it. I think New England might have a Brock Purdy situation on their hands too. Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe.
Let it play out, right? Like, like we all, and I know you're from the area. That's the team you grew up with and stuff. But, I do think Drake May, the thing I saw with studying his film is the system he ran, the way he played. He probably had the longest learning curve, including way longer of a learning curve than Bo Nix, to be able to function in the NFL. So I think that's going to play out I think Drake May's probably a 2-3 year. You'll know.
Hey, by the way,
just going to know this year.
Just to let you know, well, sure, I might have my Steve Grogan, Russ Francis love, John Hanna. Okay, I may have a little bit of that back then. My man, 50 straight home games in attendance, sitting in the stands for the Buffalo Bills, sucked whatever love I had for the Patriots. Never mind the Broncos Patriots. Any love I've had for the Patriots, and I know it for a fact because I've been at Super Bowls where the Patriots have won, and I've been like, So, I collect a little confetti for mom and dad, Peter and Eileen back in Ipswich. They're all excited. They're wicked pumped about it. But do not confuse me whatsoever with any form of Patriots fan, my friend.
All right, in your power rankings of Boston sports teams and franchises.
Yeah.
Today, 2024.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 in order.
The Red Sox won by a landslide. It's not even close. I got a Red Sox tattoo in 2004. However, because I had kids here, and I know I'm a bigger Rockies fan than a Red Sox fan because we went through the horror show of being swept in 2007, and that wasn't satisfying at all. That sucked, especially because I had Game 5 tickets. That blew. And I was at a Red Sox Rockies game when my kids were a little bit older, and Jason Giambi hit a walk-off, and we're going nuts. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm a Rockies fan more than a Red Sox fan. But that being said, my passion for the Celtics, Bruins, I suppose the Celtics would be second in this weird one. The Bruins, all right, I guess, because my dad, we're a big hockey family. And my dad's played in Boston Garden more than 50 times.
That's awesome.
My dad was a Division I baseball and hockey player at Northeastern in Boston.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, he played 2 years.
I've been on the campus.
Well, he played 2 years for the Huskies playing both. And then in his final 2 years, he gave up hockey and just played baseball. But they used to play like high school games in the old Boston Garden. And he played in the Bean Pot and did all that sort of stuff. So hockey still has a soft spot. But the Patriots are freaking as low as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
On scum.
Yeah,
no joy for them.
They've kind of become, if you're not living there, you're not breathing it, eating it, especially like over the course of the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick run. Man, they're a pretty hateable franchise, right? Like,
yeah, and another thing too is I grew up on the for the most part the North Shore, not the South Shore, and Foxborough isn't even the South Shore. It's just a piece of crap wormhole in somewhere that's like more Rhode Island than Massachusetts. We never went to Patriots games, bro.
Right. What, to drive to a Patriots game from where you grew up, hour and a half?
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
And good luck getting out of there. And the stadium was, when I was growing up, it was like Schaefer and Foxborough Stadium. It sucked, bro.
Yeah.
So like I've been to Larry Bird Celtics games, and I've been to see Terry O'Reilly beat the shit out of people in hockey. And I cannot even count how many times I've been to Fenway Park. It's ridiculous. But the Patriots, you know
what's what, DMac? So I think about it, and this could be just a personalized opinion because of what you just said, and then my own story. It's almost like the sport of baseball. So if you're somebody like myself that's been a vagabond, moved around the country, baseball, I guess, loyalties, it seems like those stay deep with where you're from, what was passed down from your father, your grandfather. So like for me, it's the San Francisco Giants, man. Like that was passed down. My dad grew up in the Bay Area. I never grew up in the Bay Area, but my dad took me to a Giants game, Candlestick Park as a young kid. I can't, no matter what, I can't shake that one. I've never been able to shake the Giants love. And I've lived everywhere. I mean, the only
way you'll shake it, the only way you shake it, but most dads brainwash their kids. So they may just fall in line with you, but the only way you'll shake it is if your kids become a bigger fan of a team.
That's been happening with the Rockies with me. It's been happening.
Well, at some point, if you go to a Giants-Rockies game.
Oh, I've been to 4.
Okay. With your kids.
Yes, every one of them.
Okay. Who won the games?
Well, one of them was the Rockies, and my son decided to buy a Brendan Rodgers jersey. He hit the game-winning walk-off. And all of a sudden, my middle child is a diehard Rockies fan. He will not wear Giants gear to a Rockies-Giants game. The youngest one, my 7-year-old, he's like diehard Giants. But it's great. We have like in-house, we have our own rivalry brewing, which is so fun.
Well, I got no beefs with that whatsoever. What I do hate is Nate Kreckman wearing a Cubs hat. Because if there's anything suckier than the phony baloney Cubs fans, I don't know what it is. They are just, they think they're so adorable and they think everybody thinks like them. And I think they're the most annoying fan base because they think they're so lovable. I like Red Sox fans because they know they're assholes. And
they're assholes.
They just sort of embrace it. There's nothing lovable about them. They know who they are. The Cubs fans are delusional. And if I hear another story about how I grew up in like Wisconsin, but my dad watched WGN back in the 50s or whatever it was. So, Ernie Banks was, my hero. So I'm still a Cubs fan. Even though I've lived 50 years in Colorado, I'm going to throw up. But that's just me. Warm and cuddly DMac. All right, brother. Listen, enjoy. We'll be watching the game and reacting to that. I don't know. Do you want to do something Sunday night or not?
I think we should.
You wanna? Okay.
I think it'll make for really. I'm excited for that.
You want to be back here Sunday night, 8:00?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it, and we'll see who else we can rope in. Maybe get 3 or 4 different folks to come on and join us. That'd be kind of fun, man. All right, I'll try to round table it up on Sunday night.
I'm just glad that for once in this preseason, including training camp, I don't have to chart the reps because it's going to happen in real time on ESPN app.
You'll have it all sitting right there for you. All right, man. So Sunday night, we'll be back here on Sunday night. We appreciate this is brand new for us doing this with Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. And there's tons of comments, tons of viewers. And man, we really appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll be back on